presentations, and you can always expect something cool. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Kerwin Williams to the stage.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone. If you are watching this online, you won't know if I'm lying or not. The room is packed. It's full. If you see people here, it's amazing. Woo! So, to be presented.
I'll have to give you a duplicate view.
Nice. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Nicholas Hernandez. I mean, to the point that he's making, the only reason he knows I have any representational skill at all, and I can do really that. But the only reason he knows that is because he's been here. In other words, he's been doing this for many years. I said this to him, I think, personally, sometime when I saw him, I'm happy to say it in public. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Industries are ecosystems. Our industry in the region and in Trinidad is still nascent after many years because we're missing key role players. You can't just have the nerds who put their heads down and tell a personal story. All I want to do the day comes write code. That's all I want to do. I don't want to talk to people, I don't want meetings, I just want to write code. Ironically, I can't do that. Because I lead a team, I have engineers who reports to me, I have a business to help run. I cannot do that. I accept that. And I think our industry needs to accept that we can't just write code. We can't just tell ourselves all we will do is write code. We have to find organizers like Nicholas, the groups like GDG, the stakeholders who care, and get them to have a seat at the table. It's not going to be sufficient for the developers. I think for a while, I think we're going to presentation in, I'm sorry. For the developers, we thought the meek and the coders would carry the way. That is not it. We actually need everyone. So I want to start really by thanking, of course, the host. I'm really Dalai Lama. It's vibes. Nice to be here. And really encourage ourselves, encourage the industry to get up and be who we need to be. No one will come down and cause us to be the thing we look at. I look at the conferences online, I look at the large auditorium filled with people and think, when will that happen for us? It won't happen until we decide we need more than the lines of code. I think my presentation will talk to some of that. So let's dive in. I'm talking about prompt engineering first of all, and if you don't know the term, you might think it has something to do with speed, rapidity, that you are quickly going to get things done. I would love if you take that away from this, but that's not what this is about. You'll see. So I guess it's been an AI year, really, and these 3 sessions are focused on AI. I can't remember his name. Ruben Smith started us off in the afternoon session talking about AI, and then there's a woman in data science, and now here I am, the least qualified to talk about AI, I guarantee you. But you'll see why I feel super confident to do it. As I touch my chest, this jersey is fire, get you. Anyway, we'll come back to that later on. I'm on TikTok like a bunch of Generation Z, even though I'm not there. And TikTok knows who I am. So instead of sending me dance videos, it sends me this kind of stuff. Now you can't hear it, and that's okay, we need to hear it, to be honest. It's one of those TikTok videos introducing you to how to run your machine learning network. Your own machine learning model, how to build your own. In the video, it said if you don't understand, still watch it and have a good time, which I did. I barely understood it. It's Python, I can write Python. I don't know what it's doing, and the video is taking the mic, it's laughing at me because I don't know what it's doing, but I'm still watching it. And having a good time, I'm like, this makes sense. I have no plans to use this. Ruben presented a hierarchy of data science, like a hierarchy of machine learning. I love the hierarchy. I'm not anywhere near the peak. I'm somewhere in the middle. Yeah, I can collect data, and I can help you organize data. And maybe I could run some machine learning models, but I don't know anything about what it takes to create it from scratch for real. And yet, I did. I used the tool because really and truly, in terms of our ecosystem, developers like me, we are the tool users. Once you tell us how the API works, our minds are, we're grabbing to pull things together. We're grabbing to make things happen. Oh, you need a website? I don't know why HTTP works like how it works. I don't care what the protocol, but I can give you a website that delivers value. And we have to appreciate that. Somebody could write the model and somebody could use the model. I've been using models for a long time and I'm happy to. In this particular example, if you are from Trinidad and you bank with like I can't maximize it, and you bank with like First Citizens, they can give you a spreadsheet of your account activity. And every month, because I'm trying to be like not just a coder in my family, but like somebody who's financially responsible, I go through and I categorize things by hand like a whale. I wrote my own machine learning, let's call it a model, to categorize for me. If you know how proud I felt. Anyway, let's start talking about prompt engineering. A bit on me, just before we go on. Most times in technical conversations, I play the architect role. If you don't know what that is, you might think he's the ideas guy. Not really. I help drive the shape of systems and how things should look and why it should look like that, and I have fun doing it. Because of my day job, I tell you, systems, a lot of my conversations have involved messages. Sending SMS messages, sending non-SMS messages, reliable delivery of services, a lot of it. Done it for many years, and as it turns out, I'm still curious about making it better. I don't know why, but I am. That's a lot of my day job. Beyond that, sometimes a friend might come to me and she might be like, listen, I'm doing a data science solution. This has happened. I know nothing about the cloud. What should I use? And in which case, I'm pulling resources together to deliver the solution. And I realize that doesn't feel like being an architect. It is, but it feels more like plumbing. It feels more like putting a bunch of things together to make data flow from one thing to the other thing to the other thing. And there are appropriate tools that you must know. I just moved into a house the other day and it was leaking. I was so happy it was leaking because I got to go to the hardware and buy stuff that I've never used before. Like there's a thing called a basin wrench. I bought that for no reason at all. I didn't need it. My wife is not watching this, so she doesn't know that. But I bought it happily. That's real plumbing, but I'm more of a cloud plumber. I have fun doing it. But those two things are really me as a professional. As me, I can deliver that value. Pay me money, we have a good time. But I also experiment. And when I experiment, it's much more like this. It's falling down a hill. It's trying to understand. It's trying to get started. It sucks. But it's something I also like to do. And so, we'll see why I think prompt engineering is significant for me, and I think for everyone else. Trying to figure out how to learn new stuff can be hard. First of all, you have a day job, right? You're an architect, or you're a cloud plumber. You don't really have space to go learn React Native. You understand? You just spend 5 years learning PHP. You just figure out how to install the latest Laravel. You are in the Laravel community, and a man come and tell you, no, you now need to go and learn Rust. What? When are you going to do that? So for me, that's going from ideas of the latest thing to actually doing something new. And it has to look like this for me. You hear about the thing somewhere, maybe on social media. And then you go and you pass, you Google it. Nowadays, what I do is I go to social media and see what people are saying about the thing, because I'll find tutorials there. Like I started the presentation, I'll find a video on neural networks, I find a video on Rust, or a video on Node, or a video on the latest thing, and then begin to work through learning it, tutorials and walkthroughs and SDKs. And my God, it could take long, it's a slog. To go from not knowing because some youth man, because I'm no longer a youth man, unfortunately, or fortunately. To go from where I am to what that youth man did, it's trouble. And it could take a while. And eventually you start to do this stuff, It looks horrible, it is not appropriate for production, badly, and eventually gets less bad, and finally it's okay. You wouldn't call it good. In that process, it's long and horrible. So for me, I found that architect last year in GDG, I presented on trying to do something with Microsoft Teams. Because often I come to these events and I've been talking about chatbots and messaging. Because it's vibes to me, right? The thing I presented on last year took me about 2 years to figure out. It was something related to automating the video stream in Teams, and I was super excited. I mean, nobody else cared, but I was super excited and glad for the audience was time. Right? But it took a long time. So, what's prompt engineering? I saw someone say, I can't remember who, it's like playing charades with AI. So it's not, as I said, how quickly you can type, thankfully. It's not how many lines of code you can create, because if you listen to what happened in Twitter these days, that seems to be the metric to keep your job, and this is not what we're talking about at all, right? Instead, let's define a prompt, pretty straightforward. It describes what you want in a sentence form. Dear concierge, I'd like a drink, please. Simple prompt. I would like to fix my glasses, please. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Straightforward. So, I'm attaching prompt to something Ruben mentioned a while before, GPT-3, right? So, prompt design literally is the thing that allows you to utilize these very new, very amazing models that are available now. Remember the hierarchy that Ruben presented? And that's at the top. I'm not really building production models yet, but it's fine. I can use them really well because my imagination is amazing. And I need to look at my discipline to get to the top. But for now, great ideas in search of implementations, right? So, prompt engineering is here to help me and I think the rest of us. Because once you can put together these two concepts, you can have a good time. Sorry for all the text. Don't read it. All it's saying is that GPT-3 is the baddest, bestest, most popular AI model ever created. Why can I say that? I'll tell you in a little while. But anyway, it's scary good, right? More text. In case you're the kind of person saying, I can't listen to it because I'm saying GPT and I don't know what it is. If you are that person, they're the words for you. The rest of us are not, so you can always find that out later on by checking. Anyway, let's start off and continue, in prompt engineering by looking at one of the very popular ones, DALL-E. So, I'm jumping into DALL-E 2 because that came out at the last year or this year, very recently, right? Came out last year, and the amazing thing was being able to, there's something about text, there's something about delivering commands. If you look at my personal blog, I've written about Jarvis, because what Tony Stark did with Jarvis impressed me way back in 2008, and it wasn't even real. He's talking to this thing and it's just producing results. DALL-E 2 is that for images. Produce a prompt, like the one that says, give me an image with bokeh, shallow depth of field, blur, autofocus background, and boom, you get that rabbit in the middle. Or, the one on the left, these are all generated images. This idea of simply speaking the thing into existence feels very biblical. But it actually works. It works. You need to get some practice, and as it turns out, people have been giving guidance on how to get good at prompts. Remember, a prompt is just a sentence. I would like X or Y. And now we have prompt books. We have prompt sites. If you go to Reddit, there are examples of how to be really, really creative with your prompts. And of course, it's not, the technology isn't waiting for you to figure it out. By the time that was announced, OpenAI was mentioning we have updates to DALL-E 2. You can modify actual images. Like you can give me a starter image and tell me extend that image. So really, what jumped out at me? So at first people were afraid because is it the end of graphic design and graphic designers? Have they lost their jobs? Well, let me use another personal example. My wife is a costume designer. She is excellent with all things visual, right? She could model your house, she could pick the best color for your car, she could make your clothes look good. She did not design this jersey, so if you think it's horrible, that's on me. But if it's great, it's all good. The point is, she's great at all things visual. If you give her DALL-E 2, the things that she would conceptualize to prompt, they're on another planet for you. So the first thing to appreciate with prompt engineering is if you think, oh my God, my job is in question, you might not have understood what your job was. Your job wasn't ready to be a copywriter. Your job was to deliver the value of a proper story to a client. And if this thing could give you your client's story in 2 minutes as opposed to 2 days, take the win. It's a win. You just get more clients. Your rates might go down because somebody else who wasn't as good as you may be able to produce work that might be better than yours in the short term. But you can fix that. You just have to be willing to change and adapt. As it turns out in our industry, we thought we had a lock on that. In software development and in IT, we thought our industry was you move, we move, you dance, we dance. This stuff with prompt engineering and DALL-E and GPT showing me that I might be found flat-footed if I take too long. So, prompt engineering and the models that are created, in my mind, they are net positive for the current professional. See, the persons who are learning, you see, you in school and you don't know where your career is going to be, you have a different challenge. We'll come back to that. But if you are currently a professional in any of these fields, your world should have blown up. Because all of a sudden, it's like you have assistants. It's like you have your own Jarvis in the context of, I have an idea, and I want to see what it looks like, and I don't want to spend 2 days drawing it out. You're going to take 10 minutes to draw it out. Now you've done that, what's the next thing? That's what it hits me like, we need to see this thing. Before I go on, this is still new. And that point, issues including licensing and access to source affects all of the models under consideration. Where did they get those images from? There are artists right now online who are mad because a model was created or it was fine-tuned, and to fine-tune an existing model is to take a model that is a base foundational model and refine it for a specific purpose. So let's say you were doing sweetbread comics in Express. That's a style in Trend Express. If you read the Express, you know sweetbread. It's a local comic that's been around for a long time. If someone were to take his works and fine-tune it into DALL-E, all of a sudden you have your own bakery because it's sweetbread every day. But the problem is he need not have given permission. Now that's a problem for licensing, a problem for creative works. So there are problems. It's not all easy. It's not all fun and games. But at least you need to know how it works as a professional, especially a visual professional. If you hear about it and think, that's the enemy, I will never use that. I suggest to you, you're going to calcify your position. You might not like it, at least you need to know it. And you need to know of these issues because there are many of them. But that doesn't stop the rest of the world from running after it and trying their best to capitalize on it. So, for example, there are prompt marketplaces. You can go and buy prompts. I saw one guy talk about a prompt NFT. That's a little too much for me. But the point is, people aren't waiting. What I like, as I said, is what this prompt engineering does in the DALL-E context. Is the what happens if becomes a natural part of your work. What happens if you combine a horse and a pigeon in an airplane? I don't know. Let's look. What happens if you wanted a bar feel like this, named Dalai Lama, and you want the bar full of llamas and a man riding it, looking like Dalai Lama? Where we get that from? You can spend your time drawing it out, but you can just say to DALL-E, fill a bar, fill this space, and upload an image to you. fill that image with llamas with a diamond. Just because they want to see what happens. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And DALL-E 2 is not the only game in the market. You can go to DALL-E 2 online via OpenAI site. You can use Midjourney. And I love how Midjourney works. Midjourney works via Discord server. That's vibes. Remember the guy coming talking about chatbots every year? So the fact that they chose Discord as their mechanism for delivery, I love that. There are issues with, as some people think, I don't think how OpenAI chose to limit my creativity in DALL-E 2. And for those people, there's Stable Diffusion. It's properly open source. I downloaded it the other day. I have an Azure instance. I use Azure ML. I ran it myself. I felt very proud because remember where I am in the hierarchy. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the algorithms are, but I have them and I can do what I want with them. This particular background image is a dude who trained Stable Diffusion with his own images and generated his own version of Steve Rogers. I tried it myself and I didn't get far and I was very annoyed. But kudos to this dude. Let's move on. Now, a lot of us are developers, and I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about text to code because it's a big deal for us, right? Give me 1 second. Can you grab my glass and back there, please? Thank you so much. So, I would have heard of DALL-E 2 and thought amazing. I also probably thought tough luck. Tough luck for our designers who thought, thanks so much, right? Who thought, my life has come to an end. I didn't think that. I might have thought tough luck. I wasn't worried about me. But then watching Microsoft build this year, I saw Copilot and I saw this human. I wish you could hear it. And it's okay. It's okay with the flow with it. This man is 17 years old, 16 or 17. He is using GitHub Copilot. That big man is writing code with Copilot. Just let that sink in for a bit. He's 17-year-old, is learning to code, and he's been learning for a long time. I think he said since he was 8 or something like that. So he's already a developer to some degree. He's adding to his development Copilot. While you might be saying, me go and pay $100 a year for a Copilot because it might feel expensive. Copilot right now is no longer in beta. It's out in production. It's $100 a year. You might say, why would I pay for that? Why would I bother to try to learn that? Because that man learning to code since he was 8 or 10 or whatever, added to his tool set Copilot. What do you think will happen? You might be very good at code. I'm pretty good at the code I write when I have space to write it. But that's meaningless if I'm taking 5 days, he's taking 2 to write similar levels of code. So, prompt engineering. I want to spend some time with Copilot. This dude is using it for unit tests. So he's saying, and if you're not familiar with what Copilot is, it's a GitHub, it's from GitHub, it's a VS Code extension. As you type, you might be familiar with IntelliSense or in IntelliCode or code assist type things. You type and if you type up and you're using a library, and you type the library, and you type dot, you say a method name and you're excited about that. I remember back in the days when I first met that, we were using something called jQuery to age myself. And with jQuery, we were using the student version. There was no dot and C method name. So when I first saw method names in an IDE, I was like, this is amazing. And then IntelliCode came out, and it was like, what is this? Now, you type a method name with the right description, which is the prompt, and all of a sudden you have the whole method. And this is the same when I'm testing my code. 90% of it is via Copilot. So what I found a study, some researchers asked, how are you using this thing to professionals? What are you finding? And this dude was saying, when it went down for some reason, the image in my mind, this dude was, imagine he often run through, that just actually happened to me recently. You often go on hikes with long pants because you have grass and have razor grass. You remove co-pilot and now weeding forest with short pants. That's the image I had here. And you realize how it's like spell checking Word. Imagine trying to do a full document not having spell check. That feeling, co-pilot brought that to developer. Save this is essentially saying it saves time. Right? The context for co-pilot these days still has to be narrow. You can't just say, I want a class that creates long points for me to take note of some particular event application. You can't just do that. You can try it, but you find yourself some problems. It's much more for the narrow focus. We will come back to that. This dude said, I'm not even using a search engine. I have to wonder what Google is saying. What is your plan? I'm looking forward to Google's I/O next year. Because these tools are coming for your experience in searching. I don't need to go and search. Prompt, and I go on. And as you'll see in a little while, if the prompt isn't good, just write a better prompt. And this dude is saying the last one. You can imagine using Stack Overflow, guys. You can imagine all the time your usage is like you're on the top sites in the world. And then all of a sudden, usage just declining. Month on month. Nothing wrong, your system working fine. But the users just don't come to your front door. It's because they buy co-pilot linemen. Now, it's not only a professional's thing, and we should be aware of that, especially an educator. Prompts and prompt engineering and GPT is doing some significant damage to what you think of in education right now, because you can give Copilot questions that typical CS students get, and it will have answers. Not 2% of the time, almost 80% of the time for the questions they used, Copilot gave full answers, gave accurate answers. If you look at that table there, if the column says verbatim, is you give it the question, and out of 166 questions, 79 times it got it. The other modified bit is when they change the prompt. Because essentially what Copilot does is it takes the text prompts and then it adds the next word. It adds the next word. It adds the next word. And as it turns out, people like that. Students in particular. So you as an educator, you have some questions to ask. How do you know the assignments you get were done by your students? I was talking to Kenny a while back and we were talking about Trinidad's response to the pandemic. Instead of realizing there's a whole world out there that you can grab onto and be more efficient, more productive, just be amazing, we went back. We decided, oh, pandemic done, back to normal. Not for everyone, for many of us that's not the case, but for some that was their approach. Will schools go back? Will educators say, oh, you know what? Exams are now de rigueur, come right, because we can't trust where assignments come from. And we think students will treat that like, yeah, this makes sense. There are questions that schools have to ask because of prompts and more effective ways of engaging with artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'm using my regular natural language and getting answers to questions I could not before. And actually make all of us aware and somewhat concerned. Now, my plan was to kind of talk about prompt engineering in all kinds of spaces, right? all of a sudden there's text to audio, and there's text to poems, and text to full LinkedIn posts, right? You just enter some prompts, and all of a sudden you're there. Let's even text to math. Give me a differential equation to do X or Y or Z, and all of a sudden it exists. This is stuff I saw this year. These articles came from news reports I saw week on week over the last, let's say, 20 weeks. This is not stuff from last year. This is all current vintage. Prompts are here. And I love this post. There is a sort of a reckoning happening to various industries. Because the GPT, if you want understanding what your value add is as a copywriter, you will not be a copywriter. You thought the work was because you like to write this prose describing how longitudinal works. That's not it. If you thought your work was finding the best stock images on a website, if you thought your work was transcription, AI is coming. But not just AI, it's this approach to AI. So to me, what I really wanted to come to DevFest, because this is the only one of its kind in the country, I don't know anything else like this happens. So I wanted to come here to wave a flag, say there is a red wedding of sorts coming. And what are we going to do? What happens when you find that a youth man who coded for 2 years? Producing at a level of thought that took you 5 years. So you might as well take your 5-year-old self and grab onto the tool and understand how it can make your life easier, your life better, as opposed to ignoring it and trying to fight with the machine. And then this happened. Right? This happened. So I'm sorry if you can't see it properly, but this was me asking ChatGPT to describe prompt engineering. But in a poem, just because I was wild. We're not going to read it. The point is, it wrote me a poem on prompt engineering that I just randomly thought of doing. Was ChatGPT. Here's how I want to answer what's ChatGPT. By the abundance and the unrelenting onslaught of TikTok videos that have been telling me what ChatGPT is. I didn't see this in the news. It just, all of a sudden, this thing was released. And you have a developer who's doing a Starfield simulation in a coding language. Okay. It does, yeah.
It's prompt engineering.
Might be. Oh, yeah, might be.
Your audio, though?
Probably might be me.
Yeah. So clear.
Holy moly. Oh yeah, another day, another AI. Today we're going to make a Starfield, like
Try it again.
we're going to create something like this. Or we're going to try anyway, right? A script. Create a full screen hyperspace.
If I mute the output to you as well. I mean, I've been flowing. Here's why. Here's what he's doing. He's using, I don't remember what library. It could be, Camry library, could be P5, to generate a Starfield by issuing prompts to ChatGPT. I haven't said what ChatGPT is. Let's say, this happened to me. Every day I open my TikTok to line up at the time, Barrage. Another dude, Vex. Why he Vex? You're not really Vex. He's telling you, hey, ChatGPT is here for your copywriting job, right? This guy is talking about remote code interviews because imagine if someone tells you, hey, let's have this remote code interview, and they give you the challenge, and as soon as you just You can just take the code they ask you to write, submit it as a prompt to ChatGPT, and it's game over. Now you can get around it. You can say, give me a screen share as you write the code. There are ways around that. Point is, modes of operation for us have changed. It's just all kinds of people telling me, ChatGPT is here. It's here, it's here. And so for me, he's continuing to art with AI. For me, I thought I need to do this, right? So I jumped into it. So in fact, I paid for OpenAI. I just took my money out and said, don't charge me more than $5 a month. Literally. But I stuck in my credit card there because you had to get in. You have to see how it works. So this is ChatGPT is currently in beta. Don't pay for it. Just go and sign up and use it. Go sign up and use it, and 1 million users have done so in a week. It was launched last week, Wednesday, and 6 days later, 1 million users. I think it's one of the fastest user growth rates ever. Well, it's built by OpenAI, so people who invest in it already. I don't know if you do more than Microsoft and Elon and the rest, right? But the point is, this thing is here. So why am I choosing to demo building a Mobius wheel? Because I just saw one this morning. I was like, hey, that'd be cool if you build that out. These are the prompts it took me to get to having a Mobius wheel, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the actual text. What did it produce? Give me 1 sec. Mobius, right? Python, -m. Right, I'm just posting that page on my machine, right? And what I'm going to do is, I think that was localhost port 8000. It gave me that. I don't know how to do that. I choose to keep very few programming languages in my mind. For the most part, when I think programming, I think C#. For the most part, my day job is C#. I write a lot of C#. I don't know Python. I barely know JavaScript, and I could write some. I don't know TJS, and I certainly don't know what it takes to do this. But I have a sense of the concepts. I remember writing code for a long time. So we understand the concepts. So when I hit OpenAI, these prompts, OpenAI know what to do. What did it do exactly? I want to show you what it did, right? Give me 1 sec. It did this. Let me close this. Alright, not nobody cares. Right. This is my prompt. It gave me code. This is my prompt. It gave me more code. I want to underscore. Look at the prompts. And I know nothing about Vue.js and nothing about mesh environments. Nothing about that thing, that Mobius wheel. I just saw a guy on Facebook. Remember how I started the presentation? I have ideas, and I just want to execute it. But to execute them takes me days or weeks or months. If I were doing this by myself, it would take me maybe 4 hours to a full day. If I just sat down, I want to make this Mobius strip. This took me moments. Now, let me tell you why it took longer. It took longer because ChatGPT itself is under pressure. Like, it's very popular. So like you might go issue a prompt and it might be like, yo, we're busy, give us a minute. But you understand, if I have access to a ChatGPT that's industrial and ready for my use cases, these prompts will take me moments. This is not a morning of work. This is we're in a brainstorming meeting. what would a Mobius wheel look like? And you have it in the meeting. This is doing something, and I don't know what it is. It's doing something, and at least we need to be there when we're doing. And there are multiple levels of doing it. First level is at least go use the prompt system. At least go use ChatGPT. Right? So I want to end it. Because I've been talking for a long time and I'm sorry. I'm not going to play the video, but one of the things this does for me is it takes me out of the office. You might say I like to write code, but calm down. I don't know if it's code I like. I think I like solutions. I think I like making people happy. I think I like this idea that if you have a challenge of a technical nature, come to me and you will leave happy. So if ChatGPT is giving me the ability to do that quickly, then I need to stay 4 hours in my office. The reason this video is here is because the professor who recorded it realized that there were silos being developed. And the biggest silo was computer science. It was hiding away in a corner with its machine learning and its AI, its databases, and it's just hiding away from the rest of academia. And he was saying, no, you need to integrate. You need to get out there and be where the people are. Now I can remember what I said. I saw this Mobius strip on Facebook. Moments later, I could have replied saying, hey, look how cool this thing looks in real life. Because of prompt engineering. It makes me more prompt. No pun intended, but I'm taking it where it is. So, we shouldn't be telling ourselves we're dead in the industry, dead, and we're gone. We should be saying there's a big change being forced on us, but we like the change. This is a good change. We need to develop a new mindset. And one of the things that jumped into me, you see I mentioned this idea of Julie Mango. Here's why. I learned only recently that apparently Julie mangoes aren't grown from seeds in the ground. And the Julie mango tree you see is because it was grafted. Maybe that's not true, but I love it for my story. Because what it means is to get real value, which is Julie, because that's the best mango on the planet. To get real value, you have to graft it, you have to think different. So similarly, we were trying to get value by writing all the code ourselves, and now we find that maybe there's another way coming. There are many issues. There are many issues. Right now, GitHub is being sued because of GitHub Copilot, because of licensing issues. I'm not offering an easy road at all, and as I said with ChatGPT, the journey is fraught because even right now the tool doesn't work well. But by the time you wait for it to either work well or for it to be decimated, the industry would have changed. My curiosity on this Julie protocol is simple. My curiosity is, can we figure out how to make this thing much more relevant to us? Both in the context of, well, what is prompt engineering? Go figure it out. What is ChatGPT? Go figure it out. But I did a funny test with ChatGPT last week. I asked it, do you know what gala apples are? It said yes. I said, okay, give me a comparison between gala apples and Granny Smith apples. And it gave me 5 paragraphs easy. Then I said, give me a comparison between Julie Mango and Stash Mango. And it said, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I cannot help you. Now, as it turns out, ChatGPT is foundational, which means you can fine-tune it, and you can put the data there. But somebody still has to do it. And so for us in the region, us in Trinidad, us in a small island, I don't think OpenAI cares about what we do in left or right. And therefore they won't care about our data sets. They won't care about our concerns. They won't care about Julie Mango and Stash Mango. But we have to care. This is our concern, this is our community, this is our data. And so there's another burden on us. The burden of understanding really and truly how to make your own ChatGPT. Because it is not sufficient to simply be a model user. I admit that, I know that. You have to do the next thing. Thankfully, we actually have data science professionals, we have data science PhDs, data science MScs, we have skilled practitioners. So we have the ability to do it. And I think I'm using this opportunity to say, let's get it done. I I think I'll end there. And that's my last slide. In conclusion, please do.
Testing. All right. So thank you so much for that excellent presentation. Really food for thought. As someone who does teaching, I am absolutely terrified by this. I showed it to my head department, and specifically ChatGPT. I know he didn't want it to talk about it in this conference. I don't think the students are watching though, but yeah, ChatGPT is a chatbot, and it solved all of my assignments, it solved all of my projects, it can do any of my exams, it's exceedingly well with computer science topics.
Yeah.
Right? And it really made me wonder, what's going to make it for academia. I have some thoughts about that. What do you think? How we should approach assessing and evaluating students where should change in the advent of this kind of technology?
So I can share the references afterwards, but thankfully that specific question is being pursued in research now. There's a bunch of research outputs. So the one I mentioned is researchers, they did this, find out how does this thing handle CS1. In that paper, there are insights. I don't think generative development is going to die. This idea of using models. So the question for us may be asking what's the value we want to create in the minds of the students, and what do we want them to create? Because the value isn't the lines of code. It probably has never been. The mindset shift for us, so we're lecturers, we're educators, we're hiring developers, and we want to be hiring developers of a particular level of talent. It more than likely might be, in the early days, leveraging our humanness differently. We may need to create smaller circles. How do you validate humans for real? Part of why we're here in this room is because this interaction still feels much more real than having a meeting on Teams. If your classes aren't too big, then there's a way to break into and leverage a humanness to evaluate if that person knows what they're saying. And so to me, it's honestly, standing where I am on the outside-ish, it sounds like you guys have a fun time at that.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see here scalability. I mean, courses, our program comes out as like one of the fastest growing in the faculty and probably university. I'm marking for programming one course, it's like over 200 students.
Wow.
And we always try to figure out, well, how can we really assess students are bringing up work? How do we know they really did it? And yes, we have things that we can do like exit interviews, just talk to them after the interview, you can really know, but then scalability.
Oh, but you know that's what I found as well. I love that. Remember, we are in Trinidad and Tobago, we're in an island that ChatGPT don't really know much about. I love the idea of associating our assignments with very specific local issues.
Right.
And apparently, as we saw even in the research, Copilot doesn't get right 100% of the time. There are particular kinds of conceptual challenges that just aren't good for generative pre-trained models. It just doesn't work. So the idea of shifting from rote responses to conceptual things. Right. So instead of reproduce the incision sort algorithm, it might be explain to me why incision sort would help with the traffic problem on Rice. You know, because that's a concept. Yeah, you have to probably pull it up a little bit and use other mechanisms. For example, if you know ChatGPT exists, you might demand your students go understand how to prompt properly. You send them to it, and they come back with the accurate prompts.
So that was the idea I was thinking about because I teach a software engineering 2 course. We do design patterns, and when the question was, how do you apply this particular design pattern to this kind of problem? And students bust their brain on this, right? Going back and forth weeks and weeks. I gave it to ChatGPT with less context than the students fully understood, gave me full solution. I didn't like certain parts of it, and that's like the magic of the AI and the refinement. I could watch it and say, hey, wait a minute, nah, I don't like this. Okay, they did this wrong. And I would say, oops, my bad, take this, and it actually finishes it out. So that kind of speaks to like the refinement and how do you think in terms of prompt engineering, because a lot of people say, oh, well, if you just do this prompt engineering stuff, you're going to get things wrong, so you should be, it's inaccurate.
Yeah.
But my argument is those with the relevant experience to be able to validate the output and fine tune. So it shouldn't be discarded, right?
Yeah. Which is why the idea in my mind is that professionals now benefit a lot from it. I know when the code is bad. When Copilot generates something that is not appropriate, I can tell because we've been doing it. We know what it is. A more junior professional may need help, and that's perfectly fine. This idea that there is inaccuracy, that may last a very long time. So that may actually be one of the reasons why you still need expertise. You still need to go learn to read books. You can't just rely on what AI says. And there's actually another method to ensure that students get the right learning. Don't ask students to write the label anymore. It doesn't make any sense. Ask them why this thing makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think you still need fundamental concepts. You still need background. So just because somebody could look like a developer without any training, because it's able to kind of get a prompt, a really seasoned developer will be able to really look at it and judge the output. Because while it might take us a long while to get the right code, it doesn't take us very long to identify what's wrong.
So as I said, check on the research. There is a lot of it happening right now. If you are jumping into this prompt engineering world, it should be because you are understanding the context around. In other words, you're getting more time. The more time you're getting should be applied to figure out what's really going on as opposed to thinking I have more time to learn.
Yes, awesome. So I just open it for what there's one or two questions from the audience.
So I just wanted to add that you need to know the basic concepts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have just said something that is so true. Using it without knowing the basic concepts is, you'll be able to produce something, but anyone who's seasoned and looking at your work, they will know that it's not an original work.
Yeah.
Just reactivate to this point as an online audience. Just saying that, we only seasoned developers, so we seasoned people who know the concepts will be able to truly evaluate the output, right? So you really still need that in order to use this effectively. Well, thank you for today. I think this was a really good session. This live stream just came together last minute. I really want to thank Stephen Wu for setting us up. I met this guy literally 2 days ago, and he brought all this mic and speaker, and basically we were streaming, right? So, of course, I want to give just a general vote of thanks. So thanks again, man. Right, so that brings us to the end of DevFest Caribbean 2022 Day 3 Participate Edition. Of course, they have a wider scope of events. We have Diana coming up tomorrow and the day after. Just look at it on DevFestCaribbean.com. You can get the full agenda events and links to the stream. I want to give a thank out to all the organizers who pushed in and make things possible. Chantal is right here and really helping me out with the venue. Maria is working behind the scenes. And there's so much others to name, like Sean as well. Thank you to the other organizers. Thank you to the speakers. Of course, it's not possible without you all. Thank you to the venue that has been excellent for us. Just look at this place, it's really amazing. So, and of course, thank you to the guests for coming out. I know we had a lot of issues with the postponement, and it's right after the World Cup, that crazy World Cup game, right? So, congrats to Argentina for moving forward, right? But yeah, that brings us to the end of today. Thanks again for coming out, and we will see you all next one.